Hey, what's up, YouTube? It is Melanie back with Melanie Loves Death Metal, and I'm kind of talking about death metal today. Not really. It depends on who you ask for this first album I'm about to talk about. But two albums just turned 17 years old. I saw it circulating the realm of Instagram and Facebook, people wishing it a happy birthday, sharing off their copies of it, etc. I figured, well, why not make a video about it and talk about them? Because I feel like they're two very divisive albums, and depending on who you ask, one definitely is a very divisive album within the metal community. The other one I think is more a divisive album within the fan base of the band, not so much in the metal community. I don't know, that's just my opinion. Somebody might disagree with me, but I figured why not talk about them today. And the first one I'm talking about is Dissection Ringcast. I can't ever say this. Somebody's gonna tell me in the comments that I said it way wrong and laugh at me and whatever else, but I don't speak the language. So anyway, third full length. This came out April 30th in 2006 or something like that. Whatever 17 years ago was. I don't feel like looking into it. I didn't write any notes for this video. I've had this for a very long time. I think I got it about a year after the release. And admittedly, this was one of the first albums I ever heard by Dissection. I had heard a couple of singles and stuff like that, and just like random tidbits of songs from Storm of Light's band Somberlane. This one was released. People were hyping it up in the metal blog sphere, like Blabbermouth and stuff like that. Like, oh, Dissection, he's out of prison. They haven't released anything in forever. Their third full length, blah, blah, blah. So I think I bought it like a year after. Maybe this might be a year after the I don't know. I can't remember when this came out. I don't really feel like looking into it. But I liked the album when it first came out, and this is coming from somebody who was not like a cult worshiper of the first two albums, who hadn't really heard them all that much just yet. It wasn't like super, like, these are the best albums ever written in metal music history. So I did enjoy this album when it first came out. I remember hearing Black Dragon, Beyond the Horizon, Next Beyond 218, all of those songs, Internal Fire. Like, I had this album memorized beginning to end. I was buying my own music, I was collecting CDs a lot, and I listened to everything. I'm an album person. I don't listen to like playlists a whole lot or anything like that. I don't make my own playlists. When I was younger, I would burn CDs. It would always just be the full album. So I really enjoyed this album when it first came out. And then it wasn't until I heard the other two albums to where I was like, what happened here? And I fell in love with those albums, and I absolutely worship them. And I often say they are 10 out of 10 albums. I don't have any bad things to say about them. I still listen to them all the time. I own several formats of them, and this is the only format I own of this one. So I listened to it these past couple of days, a couple of times, to see if I still had anything good in my mind about it, if I still enjoyed anything about it, because there are some people that really, really hate this album, and they are very vocal about it, and they act like it was a strain on the discography. It doesn't exist. Let's not talk about it. They didn't do that. Blah blah blah. And I am not one of those people by any means. I'm very down the middle. Like, whatever. It's not horrible. I've definitely heard a lot worse when it comes to music. And if I had to choose between just full-blown honesty here, and some people are going to probably really hate this, if I had to choose between listening to a Megadeth album or this album, I'm going to pick this album. I really do not like Megadeth's music. I can't stand Dave Mustaine's voice. There are elements of this album that are generally really good. If you separated the fact that they released these other two albums, and maybe if they released it on a new band name, a new project name, I don't even know, would the reception be better then? Maybe. Maybe. I'm not too sure. But re-listening to it these last couple of days, I don't absolutely hate it, but I also don't love it. I don't like it as much as I used to back when I first heard it and got it and put it in my collection. I definitely had a hard time getting through with the first two listens. I remember thinking to myself, like, man, this is so not anything close to what they put out before. There's a lot of heavy metal influences on here, obviously, and there's a lot of melodic death metal sound to this. Definitely more of that I hear than anything else. And I don't have a problem with that at all, but coming off of Storm of the Lightsbane, which to many is one of the greatest albums ever made in metal history, to this, I feel like it's really hard to follow that up. It makes me wonder if this band was still active, if John had never killed himself. If they continue to make music, would they still go down this path of making this type of music where it very much reminds me of At the Gates, which I think was a heavy influence. He was very close with the band, etc. That's just what I've read online. I don't know how true that is. Somebody's probably going to come in here and tell me how wrong I am. That always happens whenever I talk about anything related to a band that people are obsessed about. Like, would they continue down this path and make this music, or would they go towards more of the stuff that they were writing previously? I don't know. It's hard to say. But I've owned this album for a really long time. I purposely not sold it or gotten rid of it just for the completion aspect of it. That's really the only reason why. I have not listened to this probably in a good 15 years, like end to end. And that's how much dust it collects. It collects a lot of dust, and I've considered maybe just selling it and getting rid of it because I'm trying to not buy shit that just sits there and I don't ever play it anymore. I know people really want this. Ironically, it sells for stupid prices on Discogs. I don't know. But for now, if I were to rate it 1 out of 10, I would give it a 5 because I'm very much down the middle. I don't hate it, but I also don't love it. I can stomach most of it. Some of it's pretty good. Some of it I'm just whatever, not a big fan of. And do I consider it to be a strain on discography? Not by any means. In fact, I think the strain of this band is the frontman himself and the reason why he went to prison. Not so much this album. So that's just my honest opinion. Don't chastise me in the comments. But anyway, interested to know your thoughts. Some people absolutely love the album. That's fantastic. Like, yeah, but I mostly see people that just really, really hate this album. So would love to know your thoughts. And also, should I get rid of it? Should I sell it? Probably not going to, but just curious to know what people think about that. I really love the YouTube comments. Like, it's one of my favorite things about my videos. Sometimes there's some really, really good conversations, and then there's shitheads that just come in and ruin everything. But that's social media. That's across every platform. But anyway, the next album that recently just had a birthday, I believe it's also 17 years old. I can't remember. I don't feel like going to look at the exact date, but I'm pretty sure it was April 28th. Was this one? And yeah, if you know me, you know Tool is my favorite band. So there's probably a heavy bias here about what I'm about to talk about. This is not an official pressing. Spoiler alert, they have not officially pressed this because Tool hates their vinyl fan base. I don't know what the reasoning around that is, but I got this at Daddy Cool Records in St. Petersburg, Florida. They had a copy of this. I knew it was unofficial. It even said on like a little sticker thingy on the poly bag, which I have since removed. I've replaced it with a different poly bag because the one that it came in sucked. Said not official pressing. It's never been officially pressed. So if you see this for sale out in the wild, it is not official. This is a ripoff. It's not official, but it's really nice quality. It's got a nice glossy jacket, really nice quality. No inners, which is fine. And then it's a double LP, translucent red, and it sounds pretty good. Pretty on par to what you would expect if they were to officially press this. So I don't really have too many complaints. And I was happy with spending the $40 when I got this several years ago. And I've been happy ever since, but it would be great if they actually pressed this officially, because I would buy the shit out of it. So anyway, that's just a little tangent. I'm not too sure why Tool hates their vinyl fan base, because I'm sure they've made a lot of money off of the Fear Inoculum pressings. I know for sure they would if they repressed Enema. If they did a Lateralus pressing that was not a picture disc, they probably would make money off of that. Just a normal Lateralus pressing. Doesn't have to be the super crazy thing. Same thing with Fear Inoculum. They did 2 different versions of it. I have both. I have the picture disc, like 5-disc storybook thing that's a pain in the fucking ass, and I probably have never played it since I've gotten it. That's it. Never played it since I've gotten it. It's just a collecting thing. And then the regular Fear Inoculum pressing, which is 3 LPs, also a pain in the ass. Whatever. I've gone off on a tangent. Anyway, about the music. So when this album came out, I was, whew, I was just over the moon. So this is my favorite band. Coming off of previous endeavors of Lateralus, Undertow, Enema, even Opiate, which I consider to be just amazing music. I just had nothing but high hopes. And when I first heard the single "The Pot," I was a little like, "Oh no, what's going on here?" Maynard's really singing a lot. He goes really high. He has his really like metal style vocals in this. I obviously love the song, but was a little bit nervous that there would be more of that and less of Tool that I love. That ended up not being the case. I fell in love with this album as soon as I heard it. I loved everything about the promotional pressing of it. Actually, I had the CD. Let me just grab it really quick. Let me just grab it. I should have grabbed it before I recorded this video. The CD is a special like viewer thing where you can look through it. Yeah, with all of the Alex Grey artwork. Alex Grey is just one of my all-time favorite artists, and I'm considered getting like a whole entire sleeve tattoo of his artwork, which is still very much a thought in my head about doing. And then this is the book of all the images in here. So yeah, I loved, the packaging and detail. It kind of is a pain in the ass to sit on my shelf because it does not match, a normal jewel case. But whatever. I totally bought into this. So I have this, and I have probably everything else that they've released around this. Millions of t-shirts. Actually, I just opened up here. I have this t-shirt with that on the back of it. I'm sure you're familiar if you've seen that around. I fell in love with this album. Some people really didn't like this album in terms of the fan base. They didn't like pretty much, which I thought was kind of funny, just how, I don't know, like not proggy, because Lateralus is a relatively proggy record if you really think about it. They just weren't a fan of some of the things about this album. They weren't completely sold about it, and Tool fans are assholes. I'll just be honest with you, pretentious assholes with very high expectations. Most of them, I should say, not all of them. I don't claim to be one of those people. I loved Fear Inoculum. A lot of people really shit on the album because Maynard barely sings on it, and it's a lot of instrumentation, which I find to be incredible. I absolutely loved it. It's such a vibe record. Love that record. I feel like this album probably is a little bit better than Fear Inoculum. I listened to this one. I tend to pull for this one a little bit more than Fear Inoculum for a lot of reasons. Vicarious is probably one of the greatest album openers, in my opinion. I love that song, especially the meaning around it. If you ever read the lyrics and understand it, you'd understand. Zombie, again, just great song. Those bass lines and shit, they get stuck in my head. Then it slows down a little bit with Wings for Marie Part 1 and 10,000 Days Wings Part 2. I used to not listen to those songs when I first got this album. I just wasn't into it. I didn't like the slowdown, what was going on. It was nothing like Parable Parabola from Lateralus. It was very different. And then it wasn't until I started reading interviews that Maynard had talked about the reasons behind those songs, what the meaning is, and it was a lot of stuff that I personally related to. So if you're not familiar, you can go and Google what's going on. But a lot of this 10,000 Days is essentially around his mother and how she was sick and all these things. And Wings for Marie and 10,000 Days Wings Part 2 are about her. And she was a very religious person. So that's what those songs are about. And that really kind of emotionally connected to me at the time. I had just lost a friend to suicide. And there was a lot of things going on in my life of just, college, breakups, everything that I had, coming out as gay, all those things. So this album really was one of those things that I often attribute to saving my life at this time. Music is great, and then it has those types of memories and nostalgia and what it does to you. So this album I absolutely fell in love with. I went all around the Midwest and saw the tour with my best friend, who unfortunately is no longer here. She passed away from cancer 7 years ago. So this has some obvious sentimental value to me. The album means a lot to me for those reasons, for those memories. And I saw the Chicago show, the Milwaukee show, Iowa, I think Missouri, Indiana. And I think I went out to Minnesota. Like, this was like a 2-year span of when they were just touring, only playing these songs with the exception of a few Lateralus Anima Undertow things littered in there. But this was 10,000 Days tour. Like, I went all around the Midwest to see this. And every single time, it was an incredible show. And even the Fear Inoculum show that I saw, like, a year ago now, was amazing. Tool is my all-time favorite band, so I don't really have anything negative to say about this. When I first heard the album, again, like I said, those 2 songs I was not a fan of. I didn't like some of the, like, random weird shit that they put in here. But, like Rosetta Stone, Lost Keys, like, those albums took me a while to get used to. They're very interesting, but they're fun now that I know them. And I think Right Into and Big Nitty Trees, like, it just ends incredible. Right Into is one of my favorite Tool songs, and it's so good. So yeah, this one I absolutely adore. I'm on that spectrum. I think this album is fantastic. I give it a 9 out of 10. Yeah, I would say in terms of, like, a Tool ranking, we'll get there someday. Someday I'll make a video around that. But this is by far one of my all-time favorite Tool albums. Hello, computer. My Google Calendar telling me I probably have to be somewhere right now. But yeah, so this also came out around the same time. 2 very different albums in the time of my life. This section was, I was just, really unearthing who they were. This, obviously, I was already obsessed with the band, so this one, it clung to me a little bit more. Now, listening to it, obviously, I still love this album, and this album I used to really like, and now I'm kind of like, I don't really care too much for it. But that's my video today. Curious to know what your thoughts, mostly on this, because I know a lot of you aren't Tool fans and you could care less about Tool, and you probably hated that I talked the most about that, but tough. But yeah, interesting to know what you guys think about this. Like I said, I think this one is probably the more divisive album within the metal community. And it's interesting to see, and I always like to have the conversation. I brought it up in a group chat the other day when I saw that it was its birthday, and it was very split. Some people were like, it's not a bad album, I don't understand why people hate it as much, and other people were like, screw that album. I don't ever want to hear that album again. So that's all I have today. Hopefully I'll get some more video outs this week. There's a couple of new things coming into the collection soon that I'll show off. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one.